Delators, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Massive demonstration happening in Morocco. This Gen Z spirit is spreading all over Africa and beyond because the generation of our time is tired of the system of corruption, of bad leadership, and all the bad things that our leaders are doing to us. This Gen Z 212 in Morocco is having no leader, just like what happened in Kenya and Madagascar, Nepal, and the rest. Because over the years, any demonstration that we will have, we normally have leaders that organize this. So the Moroccans, the Kenyans, and the Gen Zs are learning from the past mistakes, not to have a single leader that will be held accountable. So they use TikTok, Instagram, and other social media platforms to organize this protest. And this has become a tool that we can use to group ourselves, communicate whatever information we want to have so that we can rise against the powers that are leading us. The Moroccans said enough. What sparked this demonstration was 8 women who went to the hospital to bring us joy lost their lives. These pregnant women entered and never came back. And according to what the Gen Zs are saying, it's lack.
Morocco just became the latest battleground in what's becoming a global pattern. It keeps happening. Gen Z, or the youth, is done waiting for change in Morocco and many other countries. And they're taking to the streets in numbers that haven't been seen in, well, ever actually. Cities from Rabat, the capital, to Casablanca, Marrakesh, Tangier, they're erupting with youth-led protests. And the government's response? Force, arrest, silence. In terms of actually addressing the grievances. By and large, don't address the situation, just try and crack down and shut the people up. But here's what you need to understand about what's really happening. We're scratching below the surface. Quite recently, reports say 8 women died during childbirth at a public hospital in Agadir. Agadir is a lovely, I am told, I haven't been there, is a lovely coastal settlement known for its tourism, right? Now, 8 mothers could have been saved with proper healthcare in Morocco, and this was the sort of the spark that triggered the fire, right? Can't have proper healthcare, right? Sorry, Morocco's government has already allocated billions to stadiums for the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Can't afford, hospitals. It is what it is, right? Now, that's the allocation, that's the prioritization of the state. You can criticize it, you can defend the state, whatever. I'm just reporting to you what the grievances are of the people currently protesting. Now, these youth are off their rockers, some would say, completely unreasonable, absolutely insane demands. What kind of demands are they demanding? Check this one out. Quote, "We want hospitals, not stadiums," end quote. Oh wait, that sounds quite reasonable actually. So, you see, this isn't just about football. This isn't even mainly about football. It's arguably not at all about sports in general. Like we've seen with Gen Z protests in other parts of the world too, the youth often want something quite reasonable, something quite common sense when you actually hear them out, something which eludes governments because of corruption and people in power set in their ways. The older generation not wanting to change, not wanting to take risks, not wanting to implement new things, and the youth pushing back against that. This is how it's always done, the elders say. This is how it has to be, they say. But the youth of a nation, what the flip is a nation? This is what happens when you do one takes, no edits. The youth of a nation come along and say, if it's always been done rubbish, bruv, let's change it. How about that? That's not quite, well, it is revolutionary thinking actually. That's how things change. Morocco's youth unemployment, as an example, sits above, I've read from some records, 35%. Flipping heck. Schools are failing. Hospitals are crumbling. Example, case in point, 9 women who recently lost their lives during childbirth that could have been saved. And while young people struggle to find jobs and survive, and their public services, relatively speaking, are trash, their government prioritizes international prestige, or attempt to acquire international prestige through hosting, the FIFA World Cup or some component of it. I think the 2030 World Cup will also be held in Spain and Portugal, so in that geographic area, because just south of Spain and Portugal is where Morocco is. Now, groups like Gen Z 212 and Morocco Youth Voice are coordinating, get this, through TikTok. I mean, that's where you're probably watching this. Through TikTok and Instagram, they are coordinating. They're staying decentralized and anonymous to avoid crackdowns. You can't really target the leaders when the leaders are, some guy with a picture of a Dogecoin or some meme as their emoji, and they're sort of coordinating things on flipping TikTok. And it's working. For better or worse, I'm just informing you what's going on. We, of course, hope that instability doesn't lead to loss of life or the collapse of civil order in Morocco or any country. Now, if you want to beat the establishment, largely composed of less internet-savvy elders, turns out, just coordinate on platforms that leave them confused and befuddled. I mean, TikTok for a 50-year-old, 60-year-old might not be as intuitive as TikTok for a 20-year-old. Protests have spread to at least 9 cities, and that's saying something for Morocco. It's not particularly densely populated, right? It straddles the Sahara. Most of its population live on the coast of North Africa. Agadir, for example, is on the Atlantic coast. Now, even football supporters are boycotting matches in solidarity with the protests. But security forces aren't backing down either. Dozens of youth have been arrested, and protesters face court charges simply for demanding healthcare and education. This is part of something bigger, though. If we zoom out of Morocco, this is a sort of Arab Spring type thing that's not Arab at all. It's global, and it's definitely something. From Kenya to Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka now to Morocco, of course we saw Nepal, we saw Indonesia with their anime pirate flag fluttering in the flipping breeze, the Philippines, right? Worldwide, Generation Z, or Z, I don't know, Gen Z sounds catchier, but I'm not American, we say Z here in the UK. Anyway, Gen Z, or the youth, are showing decreasing tolerance for poor governance. By their assessment, poor governance. They're not asking anymore politely, they're demanding, often by forceful protest. And governments everywhere are being forced to pay attention and take action, sometimes compromising, sometimes trying to reach out and negotiate, and sometimes through brutal crackdown.
Right now, Morocco's streets are alive with voices of Gen Z 212. A movement of young people refusing to accept a system that spends on stadiums while hospitals collapse and classrooms overflow. Their cry began with a grief in Agadir, where 8 women died at a hospital during childbirth. But it carries the weight of decades of neglect. As a Moroccan living abroad, I've seen that corruption firsthand. I've watched resources that should fuel hospitals, schools, and jobs get siphoned off by those at the top. And it stings even more knowing that Morocco is truly rich, with its phosphates, fisheries, tourism, and sunlit coastlines. It has everything a nation could dream of, yet its people are left with scraps. History tells us that when youth refuse silence, regimes unravel. Think of Tunisia in 2011. A fruit seller's death exposed decades of injustice, and within weeks, a dictator was gone. The spark reshaped the region. Gen Z 212 holds the same potential. If they keep pushing, if they stay united and unshaken, they can force Morocco to reckon with its own truth. A nation this rich has no excuse for leaving its people this poor.
Look at all the things that they have, yet they do not have proper health care, and they can never sit by to look at women dying in the hospitals. They are preparing for FIFA 2030. Morocco will be hosting, and they have the money to organize to make sure that people will come into Morocco to do whatever, yet the people do not have proper health care. The Gen Zs are also saying the unemployment rate is increasing. 3 in 1 person is not getting anything to do, is jobless. About 35% of unemployment rate in Morocco. So for that matter, they are tired and they want the government to do something concerning that. The protest that began as a small protest escalated into something else. Banks were burnt and other things happened in Morocco. And what the government could do was to ask the police to be arresting them instead of solving their problems, like we saw in Kenya. When we needed the president Ruto to come out to listen to the people, he now ordered the police to arrest them, to the point that he even went ahead to tell them that they should shoot their legs, because it's when you have the leg that you can run. If the leg is not there, it will be easy for you to be arrested. All that we are seeing happening in other countries are happening all over Africa. Yet the Gen Zs in some countries are very quiet, simply because we believe in some leadership. We believe in partisan politics. Yet we are all suffering the same fate of other people. It is high time the Gen Zs, all of us in Africa, come together to fight against this bad leadership. There is nothing that is changing. The leaders are always talking, and we believe so much in speech. And that is why when they went to UN Security Council, as usual, because we want that, they gave us the beautiful speeches and they came back home doing nothing. They will start borrowing from one place to the other. This is what Africa will need to disease from, the youth, because it is our future that they are playing with. These 8 women that died in Morocco are dying all over Africa. More than that, in hospitals, due to lack of equipment, lack of proper health care. The health providers, sometimes we see their attitude towards us, which is not proper. When you are in pain, that is the time that these people behave anyhow to you. And we need to rise up to fight against that system. We all need to come together. This is the time that Africans need to rise up united to fight against what we are seeing happening in our countries, because the leaders know what to do best. They spend money on things that are not necessary. Like we've seen our leaders leaving what is happening in Sudan, leaving what is happening in Congo and other parts of Africa, to be calling for whatever that is happening outside of the country. It is good that we voice out, but we have to first of all, like Captain Ibrahim Traore said, solve our internal problems. We are not hearing African leaders rising to talk about the things that are happening in Congo and other places, calling for a stop. Yet we know that, per report, it is these world powers that are sponsoring whatever because of the resources that we have in these countries. So we need to come together as Africans, the youth. We are the only ones that can change the future. That is why they are always calling on the youth to rise up to fight for the continent. And we need to put this partisan politics aside. Moroccans never wore the party colors. So that's the latest around the world and in Morocco.